about selection criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we have to write selection criteria?
Okay, some organisations, such as government departments or companies, write selection criteria so that they can be specific about their requirements for a particular job. And it also creates a level playing field. So if you and I were going for the same job, we'll have very different resumes, and sometimes they're difficult to compare. So it helps employers look at people with the same set of criteria and make comparisons in that way.
Oh, great. So what are selection criteria?
Okay, as I sort of alluded to, there are a set of requirements. They often include things like education, qualifications, skills and attributes, and they're split into what the employer sees as essential and also desirable.
Okay, great. How would we prepare to write to selection criteria?
Okay, it's very important to make sure that you are suitable for a position, because sometimes you might be interested in a position but you can't meet the level of complexity. So you need to do a keyword analysis and do a suitability assessment to ensure that you are actually able to meet most of the selection criteria, if not all.
Okay.
And what's also important is that when you look at each criterion separately, you separate the parts, because often employers put several skills into one criterion. So if you separate the parts, you can then address them each separately.
Fantastic. And how do you actually go about the process? How do you actually put it together?
Okay, well, what employers are seeking is examples of your past experience where you've demonstrated a skill. So they're actually looking for stories from your past experience, and it's really good if you can structure it within a model called STAR.
Okay.
Now, STAR stands for situation and task. So just a sentence or two to introduce a situation where you worked and what your role was. And then the bulk of your answer will demonstrate what actions you took and what you actually did. And then it's very important to put the result. Often people forget to put the result. Okay. And so that brings a natural closure to your story. And because the employer wants to make sure that you can do this and transfer the skill into their workplace, you know, the expectation is that you would write half a page to 2/3 of a page on each criterion.
Okay, thanks. Gee. And what would happen though if you feel that you don't meet one of the selection criteria, but you're still really keen to put in an application?
If you meet most of the selection criteria, I always suggest that you should apply for a job. And I'll give you a personal example. I went for a job once where I absolutely could not meet one of the criteria, and I didn't really know enough about the job to know that really you couldn't have that skill unless you were trained in it. So I actually didn't avoid it. I acknowledged that this was a limitation and that I was keen to learn. And I actually got that job based on being self-aware and honest about not having that skill. And you know, they liked everything else about me, so they gave me the job.
Fantastic. Do you think in that situation too, it might be appropriate for an applicant to talk about skills that are related, that they've practiced in a different area that they could transfer and build on to meet that particular requirement?
Yes, I think that's exactly what employers are looking for. So remember, when you write your application, you're writing to the employer, so you've got to couch the whole thing using their language, their terms, their key words, and you need to sort of craft it so that as they read it, they actually perceive that you're a perfect fit. So not only are you telling your story, but you're giving them clues about how you can transfer it across.
Yeah, fantastic. So when I come to send my application, what order do I send it in?
Well, before you get to send it in, it's very important to do a spell check. I would even sleep on it overnight.
Yeah.
Some people even do one selection criteria a day. so that they really focus on that and polish it up, and then they do the next one. But what's important is do a spell check, and also, if possible, get someone else to proofread it. But then when it comes to sending it in, you need to really go back to the instructions for the application and check what order. Do they give you any clues? Do they ask for a cover letter? Do they say they want a resume? And do whatever they say. But if they don't say anything, I would always put it in this order. I would put it cover letter, responses to selection criteria, and then the resume.
Okay, so thank you very much for that. And it's quite an involved and time-consuming process, this addressing selection criteria.
Yes.
So
it's not something you can do overnight, that's for sure.
So don't leave your application to the last minute.
That's right. Good luck.